The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Phixated podcast. I am your host, Mike Azzolina, and I am joined by a slightly more sober than me, Regz. Regz, baby! We are back tonight.
There's not a ton of, obviously there's more times over the past several years that we've been out of college, but I still get a little twinge of jealousy anytime some of my friends are less sober than me, because we spent 4 years being right together. Like, we might have been off by a little bit, but we were always there together. I
mean, we're only off by a little bit tonight.
And
I feel like.
I think you got me pretty beat. But it always makes me reminisce about the times from 2005 to 2009.
I mean, look, a friend was in need tonight, and I went and became
you're just a good
friend. Hero.
That's right.
I'm a good friend.
You are
a good friend, and I made it back for the show.
You did. We won't say when. We won't say when you said you were going to be back and what time we're actually starting. We don't have to talk about that. But
I mean, I asked Andrea to send you a message so that you knew. My phone died.
Right.
My phone,
I knew that. But it also said a time that was an hour ago.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I don't care. It's not like I was sitting here.
It's a bad job by me. It's a bad job by me.
But I knew instinctively what was happening. As soon as it got to like 9:20 and I hadn't heard from you, I was like, I know exactly what's happening. I don't know who's involved, but I know exactly what's happening. I'm just going to sit and wait. Because the reward, will be worth it. And I was right.
It far outweighs the poor,
it does.
Results.
Exactly why I sat here happily. Just waiting.
Here we are.
Just waiting.
Here we are, ready to talk about Philly sports.
That's right.
We are 2 days from the new year, Regz.
That is right.
Can you believe it?
No.
I can't.
Every time a year passes, I'm not sure what happened.
Now that we're older, I feel like they go much more quickly.
Yes, they do.
Like they fly by now.
Yeah, my middle son's going to be 6 tomorrow.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
It's not even possible.
I don't know. I don't know how the oldest one is 8. Like, the fact that I had a child 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I say it all the time. I feel like every year that we add to our lives, it moves like another like 7 days faster. It feels like we skip 7 days throughout a year and it adds on every year. 14 days just disappeared and 21 now disappeared.
I think eventually we'll reach the point where it starts going back the other way.
You think so?
Yeah. There'll be less to do. It won't be as crazy. I feel like we're right in the middle of when it seems the craziest. And
it feels wild right now.
No, yeah, exactly.
It just feels wild right now.
Exactly.
And we're 2 days away from 2023. And listen, 2022 has been a heck of a year.
Yeah.
Sports-wise, podcast-wise, job-wise, kid-wise, health-wise,
life-wise.
Recreationally. Life-wise. It's been wild.
Yeah, it's been something.
Now, we're waiting until the end of the show to do our personal New Year's resolutions. But, Regz, we would let the Phixated Nation down if we didn't do, Philadelphia sports resolutions. What do you got, bud? What is a Philadelphia sport resolution? It must happen this year. It must be the end result of 2023. What's it going to be?
My resolution is that for the next, I'm going to push it out several years. For the next 5 years, I need the Phillies to, I need their only goal to be to win a World Series.
That's their only goal right now.
I know, but I just need it to continue. I don't need them to get scared off or I'm knocking on wood. Like if something weird happens and they kind of get scared off by something, I don't think Dombrowski's that way. Luckily, doesn't seem like a guy who's easily spooked. But maybe I'm speaking more to the fans here that we need to like just be all in. We just need to be all in. I know it's our tendency to get, and we're going to talk about this later with the Eagles. It's our tendency when weird things happen or bad things happen to think that the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Baseball in particular is a very long season. Weird stuff is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I think collectively we need to like just take a deep breath and be a little bit better at like stay the course. This team is still good. We can still do this instead of the inherent panic that typically happens.
I mean, I feel like that's a really good resolution.
Thank you. I just thought of it.
I appreciate it. You want to know mine?
I do. Very much so.
Super Bowl.
Yes. Very good.
I mean, at the very least, an NFC championship.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
At the very least.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, this team, and we'll talk about this when we get to the Birds at the end of the show, but like this team is built to be in the NFC title game. So like just go be in it and win it. Like get a Super Bowl. I don't know what else to say. Like 2022, we overachieved in baseball. Like the Sixers were still the Sixers.
Mm-hmm. Flyers are pretty bad.
Flyers are terrible.
Yeah.
The Union got to the, MLS Cup. Like 2022 was still like a pretty good sports year for us.
Yeah.
The Eagles have been awesome in the regular season.
Yep.
But like here we are buckling up for the playoffs and people are doubting us. And we'll talk about that too. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
People are doubting us and just get us a Super Bowl. Like get us a Super Bowl so we can shove it right back at him, Riggs. That's my Philly sports resolution.
I love it.
Little tipsy Azzy over here. Regs, the Sixers. We won in 9-0.
We did.
We thought they'd lose one this week, and then they steal one from the Clippers.
Mm-hmm.
They steal one on Christmas Day from the Knicks, both like fourth quarter wins, and then they lose to the Wizards.
Yeah, it just like you said before we started. It's just a typical kind of Sixery way to lose your win streak to a terrible team.
The Wizards the Wizards with everybody playing. They lost to the Wizards.
Yeah, they just ran out of gas. It's just, I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna make excuses. I'm not gonna like say that something was great.
The Wizards in December. I get it.
Yeah, but
I get it.
I mean, listen, you can't say it was for Harden. I mean, he was maybe 2 for 8 from 3, which is pretty terrible.
Right.
But other than that, 7 for 14, 10 of 10 in free throws. Like him getting to double-digit free throws is crazy.
Yeah.
13 assists, 26 points. Like that's exactly where you want Harden to be. Teams like the Wizards are just sometimes going to out hustle and outwork better teams.
Right.
It's just going to happen. It happens in every sport. A worse team will just play harder that night. And because it's a professional sport, anyone's good enough technically to beat anybody else.
Right.
It's just a combination of we came out and didn't take it seriously. The Wizards took it a lot more seriously than we did. And we couldn't win. I think though that you got to look at the Clippers win, the Knicks win. Right, there's some really good wins in that 9-1. And this is sort of what this team needed to, I don't know if it's believe in themselves, but sort of prove to people that they are kind of the team that everybody thought they would be in the beginning of the season. Like we've talked about, everyone thought that they'd be the third best team in the East. They aren't at the moment. But this 9-1 is like exactly what they needed to kind of get out of that middling that they've been doing all season. They hadn't really proven that they could win more than a few games, you know, go 3-2 in a 5-game stretch or 4-3 like in a 7-game stretch. They were just, like you've said many times before, taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps back.
Yeah.
This was like a 4 steps forward and none back. And it's what they needed. I mean, again, it ends on a bad loss, but I think there were some good wins in there, and I still don't think they're quite right from a minutes perspective. I think we're seeing Doc kind of, you know, Doc's hand in this a little too much right now.
Yeah, Joel had 35 minutes in this Wizards game, 30, and James had 39.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's just
and I mean, I do think that they're going to have to go get a big to sort of spell Joel a little bit.
Yeah, we're seeing Doc lean on his veterans as we know he does.
Yeah.
Again, it's not good. I don't think Harden should be playing 40 minutes against the Wizards in a loss. Like, it's just not necessary. You have to have some sort of game sense and be like, all right, we don't have it tonight. We're going to play him 30 minutes, and we're just going to let him rest. We'll see what the bench does.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take it as a positive. I'm gonna be optimistic and take it as there were some really good wins. Hopefully, this team is figuring out more and more how to play better together, and like it's what they needed to prove that they're not just middle of the road in the East.
Yeah, you know, I think Regz, like one of the questions that I often ask, and I think this is fair to ask in pretty much every sport, like, what if they had started like 9-0, right, and they had a 1-4 sort of skid in the middle of the year? No one would care.
Yeah,
it's because they started 1-4,
right?
So now every game they lose feels like it's under the microscope more than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Like they won 8 of 9. Like, that's a really good run.
Yeah.
And they beat some pretty darn good teams in the midst of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it wasn't, you know, now granted, they won some games against teams that are really good, but without really good players playing. But they still won games.
Yeah.
And in the NBA to win 8 of 9 is really difficult. Like, that is not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of like what we talk about in football when you go 10-0 or 9-1 or, you know, all these things. Like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you play. So when I think about what they did, like, yeah, we joked around and talked about it being the Wizards, but I think it's one of those things where, like, it's an NBA team can beat you on any given night.
Yeah.
Should they have lost? Probably not.
No, they shouldn't.
But they had just gotten off of an 8-game winning streak. They were going to lose a game at some point. It does go back to what we said, which is this is the most Sixery way to lose a winning streak.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it is the most Sixery way. Like, I couldn't have predicted more perfectly a way for them to lose than to the Wizards after winning 8 in a row.
Yeah, and with Harden playing like well. You know,
yeah, he was 2 of 8 for 3, but like
but still,
otherwise,
yeah, 10 free throws like kind of doesn't make up for it in today's NBA, but like that's a lot for him nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like if you look at the numbers from the big two, Joel had like 35, right?
Yeah,
or 40 or something like that. His normal numbers 48. He had 48, and Harden had 26. And then their next high scorer was Toby with 15.
Yeah, see, that's what we talked about.
Now Joe took 32 shots.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So, you know, that's a chunk of your shots. But even so, like Toby was 7 of 14 from the field.
Yeah,
50% from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. That's a big deal. I mean, they only made 5 threes, and 3 of the 5 were Joe and James.
Yeah, that's how you know that they lost, right? That's like the stat that sticks out.
Niang was 1 of 7.
Yeah, it's just that's how you're going to lose those games.
One of those games, man. It's one of those games. But again, 8-1 in their last 9. They are 5th in the conference, only a half game behind the Cavs, a game and a half behind the Bucks. They're 4.5 out of first place. They're 3 ahead of the Heat right now. So they're comfortably in that 5 spot.
Like I said, this is what they needed to get out of that middling that they've been doing all year.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they've got at New Orleans, at OKC, and home against New Orleans and home against Indiana before we talk again for the first time in 2023. So what are your thoughts on those 4 games? You see 2-2, you see 3-1. I think I see 3-1 there.
New Orleans is playing pretty well right now. Zion's coming back like in a big way and is playing real well.
Yeah.
And they don't have anyone to match up against him. Like just flat out. I'd be a little afraid of New Orleans away. Indiana's not a good team. So hopefully that can be a win. I'd say optimistically, you'd say 3-1. I think 3-1 is fair. I think they should beat New Orleans at home. I think it's fair to think that they might lose to them away. And then OKC again is not good. They'll be without Wagner, who got suspended from the game in Detroit last night.
That was wild.
Yeah.
That was wild.
So again, a guy who's been playing really well, but again, it's kind of SGA is like their worst nightmare. A really good guard who can just do anything he wants to offensively.
Athletic.
Yeah. They just have nobody to guard him. So it's not going to be easy, but they should beat OKC.
Okay. Yeah, I think I see 3-1.
Yeah, I think if you want to keep showing that this is the team you are, that this 8-1 wasn't a fluke, you should go 3-1 in this stretch. Yeah,
for sure. 3-1 seems fair and possible.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I land. And even I feel like 2-2 with 2 road games would be fine. Again, but we'll keep a close eye on the Sixers and keep sort of talking through it as we go here. I think we're both eagerly anticipating like Maxey coming back and being a key piece. This you'd mentioned on the last show, like no, I don't expect him to come back and save the day with 28 a game.
Yeah, right.
But he does give them another outlet for scoring that I don't think they necessarily have right now, and puts Toby back into that 4th option, which is fine because Toby as a 4th option with 15 a game is.
I mean, and he gives them a different element. He's the only guy on their team that gives them speed.
Yeah,
Harden and Embiid are not. They're not those guys.
Right.
Like when Max is out there, you have to be prepared for him to just grab a ball and fly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like it's just not a thing with like not that they don't get fast break points, but it has to be very opportunistic with James and Embiid. Because Embiid's just not going to expend the energy every play to be sprinting down the court. And Harden, as we know, is a guy that just likes to get into a half-court offense. So he just adds that extra element that really isn't there when he's not on the floor.
For sure. I think that's why I'm so excited to get him back.
Yeah, because I think the biggest thing it does is like it makes that Wizards game different. If you're not hitting a bunch of threes, you can sort of still have that element that has to be accounted for. If this team isn't hitting threes and it's just Joel and Harden in the half court doing that kind of stuff and the supporting cast isn't shooting well, like that's the recipe for this team to lose.
Right.
But at least with Maxey, you have this element that just any time he touches the ball, the defense has to be so quick to turn around and make sure they pick up everyone correctly. And if they don't, like it's going to be exploited. Like that's the stuff where that's how you beat bad teams.
Yeah.
And it's how you hang with better teams is by being able to sort of mix up your style.
Yeah. Well, again, we don't know when he'll be back. It feels like they keep pushing him off and it's troublesome, but at the same time, like I think we know, we've talked about it. Foot injuries you don't want to mess with. So if they have to wait, they have to wait.
Yeah.
But to wrap up the Sixers, I think we're both happy with where they're at after the start. And I go back to if they started 8-1, and had a 1-4 set in the middle of the season, I don't think anybody would even blink.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way a team starts and how we kind of judge them off of that is what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
And, I think it's just the reaction to the group, right? So yeah, I feel okay, Regz. I feel okay with where they're at. And I go back to what we've been saying the whole year, which is it feels very similar to last year. And this team ended up like the 3 seed last year, and I think they're probably going to end up in that 3-4 spot again this year. They'll win a playoff series. It's just going to be whether or not they can win a second round, which is always their bugaboo. So, who's bugaboo that was not?
Who?
The Phillies, Regz. Thanks for letting me have that moment. The Phillies had no issue winning a series until the World Series this year. And I don't know how to transition to this next part. Do I say they improve their bullpen, or I hope they improve their bullpen with the 1-year, $10 million contract that they gave to Craig Kimbrel?
I think it's probably hope, unfortunately, after last year with him.
It's every other year, though.
I know. And I hope that continues, but we are the Phillies, and typically when we bring over relievers, like leave Jose Alvarado out of it, because he's been the one kind of bright spot.
Well, and he was like, yeah.
But again, he also got like put into AAA for a time, so it wasn't going great all the time for him.
For sure.
But typically the Phillies, when they bring over relievers like this, like it's the David Robertson effect. It just never seems to work out.
Right.
And I think, and I don't know why, but I've been reading a lot about this because I think it's a move contrary to how Rob managed the bullpen, particularly throughout the playoffs. And again, you could say that is because they didn't have a guy like Craig Kimbrel, who has literally like been bred to pitch in the 9th inning.
Yeah.
It's what this guy has exclusively done almost since the minors. So they obviously didn't have a guy like that last year. So they were able to be more flexible and pitch to matchups. I don't know. I am yet to be swayed, and maybe I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this, if it's a good thing to have just that guy for the 9th inning, which allows you to be flexible with everyone else. So they still can bring in Sir Anthony in the 7th if they want to, or maybe for an out in the 6th and hope that he can get 2 more in the 7th. You can still pitch to lefty matchups with Alvarado.
Strom.
Yeah, and Strom. And just so you'll be able to use essentially the rest of the bullpen how Rob seems to like to do it. And you just have to just for those listening, I'm crossing my fingers that Kimbrel can be that guy, because I think if he's not that guy, he's pretty useless. If he's not that guy in the 9th, it's proven he's not a setup man. He's not a guy who comes in the 7th, to get you an out or two. He's just not that guy historically. So we'll have to see. As a guy who doesn't like that sort of closer position, what did you feel about this?
Yeah, so I clearly hate the closer position. They tried it last year by bringing Knebel.
Yep.
And it failed.
Yeah.
Miserably.
Yep.
And then they moved Knebel to the 7th inning and he was good, and then he got hurt.
Yes.
Which is why they had to go get Robertson. But I don't think that's an option with Kimbrel.
Yeah, exactly.
You bring Kimbrel here to pitch the 9th inning. And while I'm not the biggest give me a guy who can only pitch in the 9th inning guy. It does allow Topper to deploy the other 3-4 guys however he wants to. And that could be like, oh hey, tonight, Craig, you don't get the ninth because in the ninth it's 3-4-5 and I'm using Sir Anthony.
Yeah.
Like it could very well be that. But he's a guy who's pitched the ninth, who's been good in the ninth, who's done it for a long time. It's a weird dynamic because we're a city who's made fun of Craig Kimbrel for a really long time.
Yeah.
But I've kind of accepted the fact, I think, that they brought him here to pitch the ninth inning. Like, I like my mindset is that he is here to pitch the ninth inning.
So I guess sorry, go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, you're good.
I have a follow-up question.
I mean, my thought really was like, and I think I have to be okay with it. And the reason why I'm okay with it is because it's a 1-year deal. And we saw that the Phillies are not tied to a 1-year deal. Like, Didi was 1 year left this year. See ya. Odubel, 1-year deal. See ya. Like, Juris Familia, 1-year deal. You suck. See ya. Like, they're not afraid to take a 1-year deal and put it to the curb if it's not going to perform.
Yeah.
And I think, Kimbrel knowing that is going to feel that he has to perform.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, like, I was trying to look back through his numbers and yeah, he's had some rough seasons, but like last year wasn't even that rough. Like compared to what we're used to, last year was not that bad. It wasn't good by Craig Kimbrel standards.
That's a key caveat for us, honestly.
But like, it really wasn't like, oh my gosh, he's terrible bad. He's not Craig Kimbrel. He's had worse seasons.
Yeah.
But if we get, 2021 Craig Kimbrel, we're in real good shape because 2021 Craig Kimbrel was like a 0.41 ERA.
Yeah. So do you think it creates any sort of weird, and maybe weird dynamic is the wrong way to put it, but do you think it creates any, again, issue might be too strong of a word, but I'm struggling for the right way to phrase it. Is there any way you see this messing up the juju that sort of happened in the playoffs for us, where Rob was kind of just so willing to say, I don't care what inning it is. If I feel that this is an important time to get these 3 guys out, I will bring in the pitcher I think is best suited to get these 3 hitters out. And like you said, I think it was a key thing, like you said, hey, maybe that means, Craig, sorry, you don't get the 9th this year or this game. Do you think that creates then a weird thing for Kimbrel, who's like, well, I was fucking brought in here to pitch the 9th inning. Like, what do you mean I'm not getting the ball?
Honestly, like, you don't manage a full season that way because you just can't.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. Because like every night you're gonna come into those spots where you're gonna hit like that part of the order in a situation.
Yeah.
So, he's not gonna manage 162 games that way.
Sure, that's fair.
And he managed the postseason because every series is a season. And that's why he managed the postseason the way he managed the postseason. I do believe he will deploy those 2 guys with Brogdon, maybe Strom. I still believe there's one more arm left in Dave Dombrowski's wallet that he's going to go grab on his checklist. I should say Middleton's wallet, his checklist. He's going to go grab.
Yeah.
That could be more of a high leverage type of reliever. But I do believe that you're looking at a situation where it's sort of like a Madsen, Romero, Durbin type of bullpen where they're really begging and holding on to hope that Craig Kimbrel can just be a lockdown 9th inning guy.
Yeah.
And they can use those 3 or 4 dudes to mix and match to get to the 9th inning with a lead.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just don't think you get Craig Kimbrel to be like, oh, we're going to use you like David Robertson.
Right.
It doesn't, in my head, I don't see it that way. I can't make sense of it. any other way than he's your ninth inning guy in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's good at it, then he's your guy in the postseason. And if he's not, then he's gone. And you try and just what they did in 2022, which was you get a guy who you can mix and match to make the postseason work.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's good, then he's your closer come October. So, I think it's sort of a similar scenario to what they did with Corey Knebel, although the track record on Craig Kimbrel is a lot better than Corey Knebel.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I like or dislike the deal. I'm indifferent toward it because it's a 1-year deal, and you've heard me say this a million times. You'll hear me say it a million more before they bury me 9 feet under one day. Like, is it 9 feet? Or is it 8 feet? Like, what is it?
6 feet under.
6 feet under. Well, I probably should go 9 because I'll find a way out if the Phillies win a World Series. But like, I think ultimately what I'm getting at is you're going to hear me say this a million times. There's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal, Regz. There's just not. Like in baseball, there's no such thing as a bad 1-year deal because that money means nothing. It means nothing this year. It means nothing next year. It doesn't penalize you if you get rid of it. You pay it, you move on.
Yeah.
So, this is a guy who's pitching for his career. This is probably his last chance.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it, but I'm not like pumped about it. I still want another reliever. I'm still like holding on to hope that we get like a Zach Britton or Andrew Chafin type of left-hander that we can pair in late innings with Alvarado and Dominguez and Brogdon. So we have 2 lefties that we can deploy and we have 2 righties that we can deploy. And then Strom and Bilotti and Nelson sort of float in that like early to mid innings type of scenario.
Yeah.
So I'd still like one more. Well, we'll see. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the division, the Braves signed another bullshit contract, and the Mets are clinging on to hope that they can figure out something with Carlos Correa. But the longer this goes on, the less confident they should feel, Regz.
Yeah, it's weird.
This Correa thing is wild.
This Correa thing is very weird, and there hasn't been a ton written about why this delay is happening. It seems to be centered around, I guess, his knee that he hurt.
Yeah.
Like a year or 2 ago. I don't know what they're seeing in these medicals that make them think that like he can't play. Like he played last season fine, as I remember. It's just such a Mets thing to like be all excited that they stole Carlos Correa. And then at the last second, just be like, oh, wait, we see the same thing now that the Giants saw. And we're not going to we haven't made it official yet that we actually have him. So I love it. Like, I think it's great. The fact that it's taking this long and that there's this doubt creeping into every Mets fan mind about Carlos Correa. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
And then again, I just looked at that ESPN article that had a way too early power rankings and had the Braves second to the Astros. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I get it. What is his name? Sean Martin?
Murphy.
I think he's been a pretty good player, but did he make the All-Star team last year?
That I don't know. If I'm being entirely honest with you, I really don't know.
But it's again, he's not like a guy that I hear of every week.
Right.
That is putting up these numbers that are I don't know. I just don't. I get it. The Braves pitching is really good.
Is it though?
And I get that Ronald Acuna has the potential to be very good. But he also could suck again.
Yeah.
And Michael Harris played really well last year. That's awesome. He was just a rookie. The second and third year are really important years. Does he improve enough to be this guy that everyone's thinking he's going to be?
Yeah.
And then it's all right, man, you still lost Dansby Swanson. Dansby Swanson was a pretty good baseball player.
Yeah.
Albies is coming off an injury that kept him out almost all last season.
Good. He has not been good.
I just don't know, like, why everyone would be projecting them so high. Like, what is, I don't, are they, am I missing something?
Oh, it's because every year they find a way to like kind of plug and play.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why.
But like, okay,
It's just-
great.
I mean, it's
but
the
like,
same thing. It's the same thing as I feel the same way about the Yankees, Regs. Like
yeah.
the Yankees literally have the exact same team with Carlos Rodon, but they have him as a 100+ win team.
Yeah. 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 I got like the top 10 here. We could quickly.
They are the exact same team. Hold on, let me just touch on Correa real quickly.
Yeah.
Before we jump to that, because I do want to jump to that, and I also want to touch on the umpire thing.
Yeah.
But this Correa thing is wild, and to me, what makes it so Mets is that Cohen came out and was like, "We're signing him," which is like completely illegal and never okay before there's pen to paper. Yet the Mets owner does it. And now they're like, oh, well, maybe we're not because these medicals are not good. And like, we probably shouldn't sign him.
To 13 years and
this is awkward.
Yep, awkward.
But I do love it for the Mets because I feel like they deserve it. And honestly, even if they do figure it out and sign him to a short-term deal, which he's not gonna take.
Nope.
Like he will not take it. Now that he's been offered 2 12-year deals.
Yeah.
He's not taking a 5-year deal.
Right.
He's not. This is just, it's crazy and it's so Mets. It is so Mets. And I'm loving every minute of it. This is exactly what the Mets would do. Oh, well, hey, like there's a really smart organization who may not have as much money as we have, but they're really smart. They've been smart for a long time. They didn't want to sign him because there was something as medicals. But hey, we'll offer him a bigger contract.
That's right.
And it'll be just fine. Those medicals won't pop up for us.
Right.
This is classic.
I love it.
All right. Go ahead and run through the top 10 on ESPN.
Just quickly from ESPN. 103 wins for the Mets. 100 wins for the Padres. 99 for the Yankees. 99 for the Braves. 94 for the Rays, 93 for the Astros, your World Series champions, 92 for the Cardinals, 90 for the Blue Jays, 90 for the Dodgers, who won 116 games, 88 for the Guardians, 86 for the Brewers, 85 for the Phillies, 83 for the Mariners. How many did the Mariners win this year? I can't even remember.
90.
Oh, all right. Good for them. And 82 for the White Sox.
All right. Do me a favor. Who'd they have at 103?
The Mets.
And you said 100 for the Padres?
Yep.
99 for Atlanta and New York?
Yep.
And then I have the Astros at 93.
94 for the Rays in between there.
Okay.
92 for the Cardinals. 90 for the Blue Jays. 90 for the Dodgers. 88 for the Guardians. 86 for the Brewers. 85 for the Phillies. 83 for the Mariners. And 82 for the White Sox.
Who's the other team with 90 with the Dodgers?
The Blue Jays.
Okay. All right. Let me just kind of react. So I could essentially see the Mets with 103 wins. What'd they have last year? Do you know?
I'll look it up as you.
I feel like they were around that. Verlander alone could grab them another few wins because he's going to pitch more games than DeGrom.
101 and 61.
Okay. So 103 seems possible for them. Everything's got to break, right? Like
I was about to say, but again, like that means that you're two 40-year-old pitchers, one of which already showed signs of losing it during the playoffs last year. Again, I know Verlander.
Scherzer missed a bunch of starts.
And I know Verlander like had this anomaly of a season, but it could be very possible that was all he had left in the tank. And good for him.
Yeah.
He did it and won a Cy Young and won a World Series. Like, that's exactly how a guy like that
And
would want to
and
go
has
out.
$90 million coming
Yeah.
his way.
But like, that's exactly how a guy at that age would like literally throw his entire soul into a season.
And they're counting on a guy who's unproven at the major league level. He's proven in Japan, but in the major leagues, he's not proven to carry some of that load. And they're counting on a guy who's equally as old and had a really good year this past year on a free agent year, and now he's got a 2-year deal for $26 million. Who I wanted, I did want him, so I don't want to sit here and act like he's going to be bad, but he could certainly falter, and I think I even said that on our dream off season, like he'd be a nice addition.
Yeah,
but
I mean, can we just get to the elephant in the room? They predicted the Phillies winning 2 less games than they won this year.
Yeah, and I like San Diego. So they added Xander Bogaerts, right? Like, and I know they got Tatis coming back, but he's playing out of position.
Did they confirm they're moving him to third base?
They're moving him to center field.
Tatis.
He's going to the outfield because Machado plays third.
Oh, right. And now they're looking to shop Grisham and the other shortstop that they had, Park, right? I saw that. Kim, thank you. Yeah, I saw that on one of the websites that they're looking to, they're out there shopping them.
I think Kim will move to second, and they'll just have Cronenworth play first because Myers is gone now.
Yeah.
So they have a bunch of dudes playing out of position. As much as we want to criticize the Dodgers and this situation has them dropping like 24 games in the standing.
Yeah.
Which is insane to me. Like, I know they're not actually the 26 games in the standings.
Yeah.
I know they're not the same team, but my goodness, like
that's a huge swing.
I mean, that's wild.
Yeah,
to
that's
me.
nuts.
Atlanta winning 99 games is hilarity.
That's like what? Like what?
It's hilarity. Like I get the obsession with the fact that every year they just tend to figure it out, but like they traded an all-star DH. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
What are we talking about here? Like, Sean Murphy's fine. He's fine.
Yeah.
And they signed him to one of those garbage contracts that their cult organization tends to get everybody to sign. But I don't know. Like, their rotation isn't scary to me. Obviously, Strider is really good and Fried's really good, but like Strider showed signs of wearing down throughout the season, and that's not great at a young age.
And was already hurt. Yeah, it was hurt last year.
Now we can say the same.
What is their bullpen?
They did trade for a reliever from, I believe it was the Tigers, who's pretty good. Who I think we will hate seeing late in games. But I mean, again, they also find guys in their organization. Like, there were guys in the playoffs that came out and pitched for them that like were throwing 99, 100.
Right.
Like they always have guys like but 99 wins just feels like a lot for a team who, after they're in their lineup, like after the 5th spot, has a drastic drop.
Yeah.
Drastic. It's drastic. Regz, I think the 85, the elephant in the room, the 85 wins comes back to Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
I really do. I believe that most pundits are looking at, and numbers, which this is based off of, are looking at Bryce Harper being out till, July at the very latest and June at the earliest, and saying, well, they're missing their best player for 2 months. And I think they're forgetting that they were missing their best player for 2 months this year.
Yeah, right.
And simultaneously missing one of their best hitters in Gene Segura for those same 2 months.
Yeah.
And during that stretch, we're missing Zach Wheeler for a month. And during that stretch, missed Nick Castellanos for a month. So while I understand like this concept of, oh my gosh, Bryce Harper, he's Bryce Harper. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do? I also feel like it's short-sighted to believe that, Trey Turner isn't going to make up for some of that offense. And, no shift is going to, benefit Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
And that, Nick Castellanos is gonna all of a sudden just be as bad as he was last year. Like, I think Brandon Marsh takes a step forward. I think Bryson Stott takes a step forward. I think Alec Boehm takes a step forward. Like, I don't foresee these guys taking steps back.
Yeah.
I think there's a possibility that we see some more JT Realmuto getting off of his feet a little bit and DHing early in the year while Bryce is on the shelf, because why not?
Yeah,
like,
right.
just let Stubbs play a little bit. Like, with the bases being shortened, I don't know that JT's going to throw a lot of guys out anyway. So, at that point, like, just get him off his feet a little bit and let him DH 3 days a week, so that when Bryce does come back and he's DHing, you can play JT every day. I don't know, man. I don't, especially because we only have to play 24 games against the Braves and the Mets this year.
Yeah, right. It's less. You'd think, yeah, right.
Like, I feel like we get more games against the Reds. We get more games against the Diamondbacks. We get more games against the AL Central. We get games against the bottom half of the AL West. And, we still get 24 against the Marlins and the Nats.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in my head, that feels like 18 wins right there.
They've literally, I mean, you can see what it looks like. They've projected the best possible scenarios for the Mets and the Braves, and they've projected the complete opposite for the Phillies.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. Craziness.
Because we are improved. We are absolutely an improved baseball team.
I can't wait to keep seeing that we're going to be third in this division, and like how motivational it's going to be. Not only for the play, I'm sure the players look at it and don't care because they've been through enough of this, but like as a fan base, this is our sweet spot. When people think that we're going to be like, when we see the players on this team and in this lineup, and people are like, nope, you're going to be third.
Like Taijuan Walker is automatically better than Kyle Gibson, Zach Eflin, like anybody we had in the rotation last year outside of the top three. Like, he's better than them. I don't know why we're having this conversation that they're an 85 win baseball team. They were a 90 win baseball team when Topper took over.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Someone asked me yesterday, how long till you guys regret the Trey Turner deal? And they were like, my prediction's June of 2025. And I was like, well, if that's right, then everybody's an idiot, because everybody in baseball says this guy is great.
Yeah, that person is an idiot, whoever decided to tell that to you.
I'm just confused as to, all of a sudden Trey Turner's a Philly and he's not good at baseball.
Yeah, right. All of a sudden.
Like, is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
like,
essentially.
Because everybody loved the guy last year.
Right.
When he was a Dodger.
Yeah. Nope.
We all loved him.
We ruin everyone.
God's gift to baseball. Now he's a Philly and he stinks.
As seen by Kyle Schwarber, who hit 46 home runs.
I mean, Nick Castellanos kind of fights that argument.
Okay. Well, look, I didn't say we win them all.
Well, and we'll see. It's 1 year. Hey, there's a list of umpires that are retiring. I don't know if baseball was like, hey, we got to get rid of some of these old heads because it's really bad now.
Yeah.
So let's like offer them this really great retirement package or what? But like 10 umpires leaving is kind of nuts.
It's like the most since 1999, it said.
Read me some of the names.
All right,
I'll
here we go.
react. Give me one at a time. I'll react.
Ted Barrett.
Ted was really well respected. Like players like Ted Barrett. That one hurts. Not always the most consistent, but that one hurts. Okay.
Greg Gibson.
Okay.
Tom Hallion.
Tom. I didn't realize Tom was on the list.
Yeah.
Oh, that one sucks, man. Tom Hallion. I think he's like the really tall dude.
Oh,
that,
yeah. Okay.
Like even when like a catcher like stands up.
Yeah.
Like,
he's still a head taller. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's him. I might be wrong, but anyway, Tom Hallion, another respected umpire. Okay.
Sam Holbrook.
Holbrook is another one. I think he's one of those guys who's like a one of like the heads of a group.
Yeah. These are all crew chiefs. Yeah, these are all crew chiefs. It says
they're all crew chiefs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Jerry Meals.
Oh, Meals. Wow, dude, this is wild. Okay.
Jim Reynolds.
That's a name I don't recognize as well as the others.
Bill Welke.
Bill Welke's a good one. Okay.
Let's see. And then Marty Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Nauert.
Not one I know.
Tim Timmons.
Timmy Timmons.
Yep, those are the names.
Yeah. Regz, that's tough, man. To lose that many veteran umpires, like it does feel like they were kind of pushing them out a little bit.
I mean, it has to happen eventually.
Yeah, you got to get some new blood here.
Yeah,
especially with the rule changes and stuff, like keeping this game moving. Like some of these guys were never really in that sort of a mindset. So
yeah, I think not only that, like you have to keep this stuff turning over. People get set in their ways, as we know baseball umpires are notorious for. For some reason, baseball umpires seem to have the biggest ego, like maybe next to NBA referees, that I've ever seen from officials who are supposed to stay out of this kind of stuff.
Right.
But like, you got to keep this turnover. You have every couple of years, it just has to happen. I'm just waiting for the day that Angel Hernandez is on this list. Hopefully it's next year.
I mean, who the knows, man? Who knows? Well, I mean, we'll see. There's like challenges coming for called strikes.
Yeah, I know. It's just
like that, which is
Jesus.
I don't know. Well, that'll be a whole nother episode because we see it in the NFL, and there are some things that you can challenge, and other things that you can't. In baseball, there are things you can challenge, and other things that you can't. And it just all drives me nuts. But yeah, Phillies not an 85-win team. Carlos Correa not a Met. Craig Kimbrel currently doesn't suck because he's not pitching. So we'll see what happens. Birds.
Right. Yeah, we're at 52 minutes. We got to get into them.
Birds. Yeah, man. I like Dallas. Let's just go there. Let me run through some things for you here that I think is important. Got out to a 10-0 lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like got out to the 10-0 lead. You get him in a 3rd and 5. You get the slot blitz from Maddox. Had him, missed him. They end up scoring, right?
Yep.
Then the next possession, you get that hold on 4th and 8 on Slay. They end up scoring there. Touchdown late in the game with the CeeDee Lamb on the cover 3. Like that to me, that one did not bother me as much. Like, I thought that was a really good schemed play.
Mm-hmm.
So that one didn't bother me a ton. Then we get to what I think is there are two banes of my existence from this game. Strip sack. Lindell Joseph lands on the ball. It squirts out from underneath him somehow.
Yeah.
Then Sweaty gets the sack on 2nd and long to make it 3rd and 30. Here's where I kind of lose it. So I told you I went back and watched the all 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I must have watched not the play itself, but the pre-snap portion of this play 27 times. And here's what bothers me, Regz. I have no idea why Josiah Scott is trying to disguise that they're in zone.
Yeah.
Like, it's 3rd and 30. Dak Prescott knows you're in zone.
Right.
So why you're trying to disguise man makes no freaking sense to me. The second he saw Josiah Scott creeping toward the middle of the field to disguise man, he hurried the snap, caught Scott out of position, and you can see Scott turn his back and be, oh shit, I'm screwed.
Yep.
Like,
and then he made a terrible play on the ball too. Like,
well, because he was so far out of position, there was no play to be made on the ball.
Yeah.
There was no play to be made on the ball, Regz.
Yeah.
Like, he was caught so far out of position. I think Slay is a little bit of blame for that, but like, to me, I think a lot of that's on Josiah Scott. Like, Slay needs to know he can carry him down the field because anything underneath, you're going to be able to recover and get back.
Right. He did let him kind of go by him too easily.
And again, like, there's part of me that's like, okay, whatever. It is cover 2. Like, it's supposed to be that.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, I'm like, all right, in 3rd and 20, I don't want him carrying him that far down the field. But in 3rd and 30, even if they dump it in the middle of the, in the middle of the field, you still have probably 10 yards of cushion.
Yeah.
to make a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
But that play right there was such a backbreaker.
Oh my
it was
God.
just
That
I
was
think
it.
you kind of knew. Yeah, you kind of knew. Then the Gardner Minshew stuff. And I don't want to sit here and say Gardner played poorly. I thought he played really well. But the 2 interceptions.
You don't know who played poorly? Quez Watkins played terrible.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about that. But the first interception on the all-22, Devontae Smith is standing by himself. like Regz, he could have looked around, done like 15 jumping jacks after catching the ball, a push-up or 2, and then climbed for a first down. Like, there was no one near him. No one.
Gardner got a little jumpy a few times.
The second one, and that first one, potentially, if he's more aggressive to the ball as pass interference, he just wasn't aggressive enough to the ball. The second interception, if you look back at the first play of the game with A.J. Brown running that like slant go sort of thing, the way he plays leverage to Diggs on that play, Quez Watkins does the exact opposite on the interception. Like, couldn't have played more poorly the leverage of the corner on that play.
Yeah.
Now, some of what I think happened in this game is Minshew is so used to throwing to Quez because of, their practice reps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was so obsessed with throwing to him, because A.J. Brown only saw targets through the first quarter and a half.
Yeah, that can't happen.
And then none for 2.5 quarters.
It can't happen.
And then another thing that bothered me, Regz, was the handoff to Boston Scott.
Yeah.
That ball is up here. And, like, that's not the right mesh point for a handoff, especially for a dude who's like 5'6".
Yeah, right.
So, again, I'm not going to sit here and blame Gardner Minshew for the loss, because I thought he played well enough to win the game. Clearly, they had a chance to win it at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But 3 turnovers that, again, Quez Watkins, we can blame him up and down. We're 2 Quez Watkins games away from being undefeated, truly. The Eagles are 13-0 and 2 games that they beat themselves.
Yeah.
I still refuse to say they've lost the game. Like, I understand that in the loss column they have 2 losses, but like in the long run, Regz, they've truly beaten themselves in both of those games.
Yeah. I think that's where my focus is. I think that I came out of the game disappointed because the fact that if we just play better, we win that game. Like, Dallas did not beat us. It's exactly what you said. We beat ourselves.
Right.
And I think that's maybe where I'm getting the most concerned, is that that's where our losses are coming from. You could almost feel a little bit better if you came out and played as well as possible and another team just beat you on that day.
Yeah.
You could say, look, they just came out and beat us. It's going to happen sometimes. This is the NFL. It happens. I don't like the fact that we're getting into these later weeks and we're beating ourselves still.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is where that kind of stuff, like, these are the weeks where that stuff should be cleaned up. And I understand that from an injury perspective, you're having guys play a lot more than they have been ever. So there's mistakes that are going to come from that. But like, just like Quez literally getting jumped over for 2 interceptions, where all you have to do is like get your hands up and almost act like the DB in that sense to knock the ball down. Like, the dudes just climbed over top of him. Like, they wanted the ball more than Quez did, flat out.
Mm-hmm.
The handoff thing, like you said, it wasn't at a good point. I don't think anyone went into that game expecting Gardner Minshew to be perfect and not have a mistake.
No.
The Miles Sanders thing, we're going to give him a pass. The dude hasn't fumbled all year. Like,
yeah, 2 in the last 2 weeks, though. I'm a little worried.
That sucks. Yes.
Yeah. I'm a little worried.
But you saw how hard he took this one.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be something that we hopefully shouldn't see again.
I mean,
I'm just, and again, we haven't really talked about it, but Lane now being out.
Yeah.
Like CGJ still being out. You see like the difference in this defense with him being gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially from the turnover side, we used to get like two turnovers a game.
Yeah, he's a ball hawk.
Yeah. And we're just not doing the same kind of thing. Like I said, I'm more on the fact that, look, we have to play the Saints next week. The Saints are not a good team. We should beat the Saints just fine, regardless of who's in there or not. If we play like how the Eagles can play, even if Minshew plays, we should, like, we put up 33 points on Dallas, who's supposed to be this really good defense. Like, with a chance, 34 points with a chance to literally go down and win the game in the last possession.
Right.
So we should beat the Saints. I don't like the fact that we're beating ourselves. It's a concern, especially for a team that, besides a few guys, obviously, who are on that Super Bowl team, sort of the core and the key players on this team are not guys who were in there while they were going on that run. So when you get into a playoff situation, like, you can't beat yourselves and expect to win a playoff game, regardless of who you're playing against.
Sure. Yeah.
I just want that stuff to be cleaned up. I don't care if they win 17-14 next week. Just that stuff needs to be cleaned up. If other teams are going to beat you, like, make them beat you. Don't just hand it to them and be like, well, we'll give you 3 short fields. You know, we won't jump on a fumble and all this other stuff. Like, just stop handing it to them.
Yeah.
And if they want to come out and beat you, fine. It's going to happen. That's fine.
Yeah. I think for me, man, like, it's about being able to overcome some of the things that they've been faced with this year, and most of it coming down the stretch, right? Like, this game was one that I feel as though if Jalen Hurts is playing,
oh my God, they win by 20.
They win walking away.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, because what they scored, they scored on every turnover.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone was a touchdown.
No, they scored on every single one.
They scored on every turnover.
Yep.
You know, we have criticized Jonathan Gannon and his defense multiple times on this show.
Notice I did not do that this time.
No, I know you didn't, but I'm saying, like, in this scenario, there's no way to blame him.
No.
Because your defense can't the Cowboy offense is too good.
Yeah.
To continually stop them on short fields.
Yeah, for sure.
Dak Prescott is not an 80% passer.
No.
He was in this game.
Yeah.
And he was not good in man, but the Eagles play a lot of zone. Now, what Nick said after the game was they only dug into 25% of their playbook offensively. And I think some of that is just because they were forced to that with Gardner.
Yeah.
You know, I think about that last possession when they were at the 19 with, you know, after spiking the ball with a timeout.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, man, what Jalen's legs open up in the red zone for them is wild.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, and not just on that possession, but even the first possession when they got down the red zone and they couldn't score and they had to kick the field goal. Like, he missed Devontae wide open, or actually it was Quez wide open in the back of the end zone. But what Jalen's legs do in that situation, even if it does come down to 40-34 in that spot, like, what Jalen can do by just running a QB draw there.
Yep.
But, you know,
yeah.
Changes everything. Like, just the defensive mindset of, oh, we have to acknowledge the fact that he can.
Right. It's one less person looking at all our receivers.
Right. So, you know, I don't know, man. I don't worry about Dallas. Like, I mean,
I texted you this. We were texting back and forth, obviously, after the game. And I think the biggest thing it came down to me is that I think every Philly fan would have loved to have beat Dallas in this situation and just be like, look, you can't even beat us when we have our backup. right? You gave us all this shit about only beating your backup quarterback. Well, look, we came into your place and sealed the number 1 seed by beating you with our backup.
Yeah.
So I think it was just more from a desire standpoint. I don't think a lot of us, if we truly thought about it, we're going into that game with a ton of confidence with Gardner Minshew. Like, again, Dallas has a really good defense, and it's just one of those things where you knew he was going to make some mistakes, and that ultimately is what cost them the game, is the turnovers.
Right.
Not all Gardner Minshew's fault, granted. But
I do feel as though like some of the decision making led to those turnovers.
Sure, absolutely.
But I mean, that's to be debated. I do think you mentioned it. I do want to touch on these injuries real quickly before we jump to New Orleans. Lane Johnson will be out for the rest of the regular season. He's got a torn tendon in his ab, which is that's
what a
rough.
freaking God, that
That's
guy
rough.
though. The fact that he's going to put off surgery and try and play through this is like, Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Like, it is not going to be easy to deal with that.
No.
But they need him, man. They don't win a Super Bowl without Lane Johnson.
You're absolutely right.
They just don't.
Yep.
Like, he is, I'm going to read you the stat real quickly. Give me a second to pull it up here. Like, what he means to them.
Yeah. And while you're looking that up, like, Kelsey had a really great interview on WIP Morning Show, and they put out the transcript of it and just how he describes him. He's like, he's literally been the best right tackle in football for 4 years now, maybe even longer. Like, just, and what he said, which I keyed on specifically, was that he's like, nobody really understands how much we leave our tackles on an island in this scheme.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's like, even though we have 2 monsters on either side, he's like, we leave them alone.
Yep.
And he's like, and they're constantly asked to guard the other team's best pass rusher.
Yep.
And he's like, because of how good Lane is at doing that, that allows us to not have to chip, to not have to shift protection. He's like, it is the key to us being able to do what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it shows when you look at God. Since 2016, the Eagles are 59, 29, and 1 when Lane Johnson plays. When he doesn't play, they're 9 and 21.
Ugh. Thank God we're playing the Saints.
He hasn't allowed a sack in over 2 years.
That's still hilarious.
So, like, if you don't realize the importance of what Lane Johnson is, then wake up.
Yeah.
Like, because people will say, "Oh, it's an offensive lineman." Like, no. He's arguably the best tackle in the game, and probably in the game over the last like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is unbelievable with what he's been able to do. They didn't even line up like Micah Parsons was nowhere near him this week.
Yeah.
He stayed over Jordan Mailata the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Because they knew it's a lost cause.
Yeah.
You're not touching Gardner Minshew if you're lining up over Lane Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
You're not.
No.
Avonte Maddox hurts.
Now Lane
sucks. You said Lane will be back.
Yes.
I don't know if he's going to be okay.
No, he will not be 100%.
Which I need to see what 90% of Lane Johnson looks like.
Not
Avonte
having
Maddox,
Avonte sucks.
That one's going to hurt. 4 to 8 weeks.
He came out flying in this game.
He was moving around, man. He looked good.
God,
good.
It changed everything.
Yeah.
Like, have you seen our defense look like that?
Yeah, he looked good. I mean, well, again, like a team like this with CeeDee Lamb in the slot without him is going to be very difficult.
Yeah.
The Niners will use like Samuel or Ayuk in the slot, and that'll make it difficult. They'll expose the middle of the field.
Yeah.
4 weeks is the minimum with the broken toe and damaged ligament in the toe. So it's pretty serious. I doubt we see him the rest of the year.
That one hurts.
They're gonna have to figure out how they're gonna manage the middle of the field.
I mean, it's still no timetable for CGJ, right?
Practiced, I think, today.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, right. And yesterday. So he wasn't on the injury report the last 2 days. But that being said, I don't know that moving him into the slot fixes anything because it's not the same scheme as when he played in New Orleans.
Perfectly fair. Yes.
So, you got to figure out what you want to do there. Maybe just having him at safety helps overall.
That's more my point is just overall, it makes a difference.
You just bracket.
Yeah.
Like, because with him back there, he can play a little bit of ball hawk and you can let Epps bracket whatever guys in the slot. But
Right.
it does take an extra defender away down the field. But I guess with who you have on the edge, like on both sides of the field, it shouldn't bother you that much. Jalen practiced today, thank God. And like we said, CGJ also had an opportunity to practice. So hopefully both of them are back. And, I don't think Driscoll's an issue over there at tackle. He's certainly not Lane Johnson, but he's not an issue. The problem is going to be what they do in the slot.
Yeah. Yeah, they look like an entirely different defense with Avonte out there.
Yeah. So, and we're not going to have them. But, again, we had ton of key injuries when we won the Super Bowl back in 2018. So, hopefully Gannon figures it out.
It happens to everyone. You have to adapt. No team
and
goes
we're just not terribly deep at corner. So
right.
When you play a team that has a tough slot, not many teams can say, "Oh, we have a really good backup nickel."
Yeah, sure.
Like that just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like no teams have good backup nickels. They're your third best corner.
Right.
So, your fourth best corner is certainly not going to be like a top tier corner. We're very lucky that Avonte is one of the best slots in the league. So when he's hurt, and he's been hurt a lot this year, it is a drop off. We just haven't played a really good quarterback and really good slot receiver until this week, and we got exposed.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're gonna have to fix it. All right, Regs. Key to the game against New Orleans, 6.5 point favorites at home, 42 is the total. What do you got?
I mean, the key for me is stopping Kamara. I don't know who else they have from a skill position standpoint that scares.
Watch out for Chris Olave.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's Kamara. He's all over the place. He'll run, he'll catch, he'll do everything.
Okay.
And maybe just don't let them have like a weird Taysom Hill game where he's just like everywhere and like doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But again, they don't even seem to want to go to him like in a snow game where his skill set would be perfectly suited. Like they kept running Andy Dalton out there. So I think that's the key, is just make sure that they're covering Kamara, make sure that Taysom Hill can't have his sort of weird impact on a game. I think outside of that, New Orleans shouldn't really scare anybody. I'm going to make this prediction with Minshew playing and not Jalen, because I think that if we see Jalen, I would hope that it maybe is only for a quarter and that they don't.
We see him, he's playing. Unless they're blowing him out of the water.
That's what I mean. I kind of hope that he plays for a quarter and they're up by 14 and they don't feel like they have to play him anymore, because I just don't want something weird happening where he hurts that thing again or re-aggravates it. But I'm going to just go on the assumption that Minshew plays most of the time. So I'm going to say 30. I'm going to say 30-17. Final score.
All right. My key is pretty simple, Regs. Stay healthy.
Yes, it's a great one.
Just get out of there healthy.
I love it. Yep.
With a win, healthy, go to week 18 without giving a shit.
Yep.
No one plays week 18.
Yeah, just lock this thing up and be done with it.
Like Ian Book starts week 18. You got home field, you've got the division. Ian Book's playing. Huntley's your running. I don't give a shit.
Zach Pascal's your number one receiver.
Jason Kelsey snaps the ball one time to get the start.
Yep.
Like Quez Watkins gets 900 yards receiving.
Yep.
Like I don't care.
Yeah.
Just get out of this game with a win and be healthy.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know if the quarterback matters. I think the final's like 31-13.
Yeah.
I don't think the final. Yeah. That's where I sit. I think they win no matter what. I think they win handily. I think they're pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and New Orleans is gonna be a little motivated because they still have a shot. But the Eagles know what's at stake here, and I just think they're going to be ready. I think they're too well coached, and they're mad. They know that they should have won last week.
Yep.
And I think that'll make a difference. All right, man. A little quick fixated. I just Happy New Year, right? Like we're 2 days away from 2023, and what a year it's been for us, dude. Like wild.
Crazy.
We got merchandise. Regz, we're gonna put the Little Mike stuff out for merchandise.
Did you like that idea?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do it.
Oh my God, I'm so happy. For
those of you listening, my wife got a t-shirt with me as a toddler asleep on in my stroller, and she loves pictures of me as a toddler. Like it is her all-time favorite thing.
Yep.
So she and Regz were texting tonight, and the idea came up that this should be a merchandise option.
said it as soon as you sent it to me.
And I think here's the thing, Regz, like if we do it, we can absolutely put little quotes about Philly sports on it.
That's what I mean.
Solely ours. No one else will have these pictures.
That's what I mean. We can get creative with this.
Yeah. So we got to find a picture of me angry and make it something about Brendan.
There's plenty of me too. This doesn't have to be an
we're gonna have to do
thing.
It. It's got to do it. We got to do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. It's going to be a Phixated 2000.
It'll be a limited time run, so you'll have to be paying attention for it.
For sure. I don't know who's going to want to wear our young mugs. But Regz, we've really come a long way, man. Like the YouTube channel's up and running, our merchandise is up and running. We've been able to do this consistently. What a fun year for us, right?
It's been wild. Like I just looked at some of the numbers. All time, this podcast has had 1,657 downloads. Which is just like, that number blows me away every time. We've literally done 70 episodes of this, which again is another ridiculous stat.
Yeah.
Like we literally only did 13 episodes in 2021.
Yeah.
So we've done almost, right? 57 episodes this year.
Yeah.
We've interviewed Jack Fritz, like Ruben Amaro Jr. Like is someone that we've interviewed for this show. It makes me smile every time I think about spending 6 months convincing you to do this. It's just amazing the sort of support that we've gotten. I'm so happy that we were able to get on YouTube. We hit the 25 subscriber mark before the end of the year, which is crazy. We've had videos that almost have 300 plus views. Again, this all, I know I'm getting a little savvy, but like this all started in COVID with me just saying, this is something I've always wanted to do, not just this podcast, but the two-way miss with Fairbanks, like the other couple that we had going for a little while. Like this was just a thing that I thought would be fun, and it's given me a chance to stay closer with you, stay closer with Banks. Like again, two of my greatest friends of all time. So the fact that it's gotten the support that it's gotten, the fact that we've been able to put out merchandise, the fact that it's gotten that many downloads, and we've literally had once in a lifetime experiences already. And again, like you said, this is the first full year that we've done this. And to combine it with like the Phillies run and like all the crazy stuff that's happened, it's been an absolute pleasure and so much fun. And I can't wait to keep growing it, keep, focusing on things we want to do next year to keep it growing and keep it moving. Thank you to everyone who's listened, watched, shared, bought a piece of merch. Like, even if you listened for 5 minutes and thought, oh, like my dad will really like this, or maybe my friend who's crazy into Philly sports will like this. Even if you listen for 5 minutes because you knew one of us and then shared it with someone else, like you've done more than you could know to help this thing grow and make it Just something. Again, I say it all the time. I'd be happy. I was happy if 4 people downloaded it. You know what I mean? Like anybody outside of the 2 of us.
Yeah.
I'd be happy. Like we're putting it out there and somebody is enjoying it. Like this is not a venture to make money or to do anything like that. It was just something that I thought would be a lot of fun. It's proven tenfold to be that. So it's just been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, like so many highlights, like the Ruben Amaro thing, obviously the Jack Fritz interview, getting recognized on Halloween, like
yeah,
what a freaking moment.
yeah.
But I think, we set goals for ourselves before this year, and we set some more goals before we head into 2023. We already talked about like expanding the merchandise a little bit, half jokingly, but we're definitely going to do it.
Yeah.
We talked about wanting to do more with our social media stuff. I think that's a big goal for us in 2023 is expanding a little bit more of the social media experience for ourselves and for the.
I think just being more consistent. A really key of this year is being consistent with the podcast.
Yeah.
Like that's what we had to do. We had to establish that this show is going to be up for people every week. It might be a day or 2 delayed, but like again, 57 episodes. That's more than 1 a week for every week of the year. So like that was our goal. And I'm really happy that we accomplished that. And I think we've set a good precedent. And now we look, to the next thing that we can do a little bit better.
And I think the last thing is, we had talked a little bit about the writing part.
Yep.
I really want to start some writing stuff here for us. Some sort of, bloggy type of thing that I'd like to do. I don't know exactly what it looks like yet, and it might not be right away in 2023, but something that I'd like to get started as we hit 2023. So yeah, I think, there's some stuff to go into the year, but I mean, it's just been such a fun year for us and like so much growth just through the podcast and for, I even feel like, it's really hard to believe I'm actually going to say this because I didn't think it was possible, but like even just with our friendship, like the growth that we've seen in our friendship just from being able to do this once a week. So yeah, man, fun year for us.
Yeah. Again, it's like exactly like you said, we spent 4 years of our lives being as close as possible. And then like everything that happens, you leave, your sort of bubble of college and life happens and things happen and you talk as much as you can, but life inevitably gets in the way all the time. But I'm with you, man. It's been the best thing to like jump on the Discord and turn the camera on and then see your face or Banks's face and just spend 10 minutes talking just about life and stuff going on and then jump into this thing, which, we enjoy so much just doing. Like that's the best part about this is that it's remained exactly what I wanted this to be. It's just like, these things are conversations that you and I would have if we were sitting on the couch together. Like that's just, then now we just record it and send it out for people to listen to or watch. And that's been the goal since day one for these podcasts. And I'm really proud that it's continued to be that way. And that people recognize that. I've had plenty of people come up and say, like, I really like you guys because you don't, like, you're not sports radio hosts. You're not like, just like hitting cliches and talking as if, I was listening to the radio or watching a sports pundit on TV,
For us.
Right. We're coming at it from a truly fan perspective. Like there's nothing in this for us other than we love talking about it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. I just go into next year with all the hope, and excitement for what we have yet to come. Because I think there's so many more great things we're going to do with this podcast and where we're going to take it. So with that being said, Happy New Year, buddy.
Right back at you, man.
Happy New Year to everybody who listens. And hopefully next week when we talk, it's a very happy new year and a clinching new year for the Birds. That's what we really need. And hopefully that's what we can focus on and, not really have to worry about making super key predictions for the Giants.
Yep.
The Giants.
I can't wait to not be worried about it.
Prediction is Ian Book goes for 300 yards
That's
against
right.
the Giants.
That's right.
So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. You can click subscribe on the link below on the YouTube channel. If you're watching us, make sure that you follow and subscribe on any podcast platform that you use. You can go ahead and follow us on Instagram at BNB Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at the same handle and at the Phixated Pod if you want to just follow the podcast. You can follow me at the Mic Drop 5 on Twitter and Regz at Big Regz with a Z on Twitter as well. You can follow at the Phixated fan page on Facebook. And of course, click the merch page for your own merchandise. Gave a lot away for Christmas. People love it. Joe Marie was wearing some Regz.
Oh, so good.
After Christmas. It was awesome. But yeah, we are so grateful for each and every one of you. We hope you have the happiest and safest New Year. Please, 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 if you're going to be having some drinks, please call for someone to pick you up. Be really safe on New Year's Eve. We look forward to talking to you next week. But now more than ever, go Birds, baby. We'll see you guys in 2023. Take care.
Let's clinch it up. Go Birds.
Oh my God! Deep to right field, way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.